And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 21 minutes now past the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us. This is Insight on Business. My name is Michael Libby. Before we get into predictions and the end of the big box store, I want to talk just a little bit about something that happened a couple of days ago. Well, actually, it's been now several weeks ago, but I don't think the full range and effect has hit most people. Between the middle of October and the middle of January, our friends at Hy-Vee, based in West Des Moines, had been making dog food in a Kansas City plant. And unfortunately, one of the issues that had surrounded the making of this dog food is that Hy-Vee tends to buy corn, lots of corn. And the corn that they've been buying had a toxin in it, aflatoxin. And that's caused from moldy corn. And it's kind of also the backstory. If you're buying lots of a product and you're buying lots of product cheap, you're going to get some stuff that may not be very good for the digestive nature of whatever animal that it is that you're feeding this to. So aflatoxin caused this huge recall for Hy-Vee and their dog food. Now, you got to think about this for just a second. They're recalling dog food manufactured between the middle of October and the middle of January. How many tons of dog food might that be? We don't know. But it's one of the things that highlights this whole thing about, if you remember last week, we were talking about pets and humans and what goes on in the humanizing of pets. And in 2012, Americans spent $54 billion on pet food, pet services, pet products, all kinds. That's a lot of money. $54 billion. And so people are trying and starting to pay attention. It's not your mom and pop dog food anymore. People are paying close attention to what it is that they're feeding their dogs. And there are a host of places that you can go to that rate dog food. One of the biggest issues is no corn, rewind. One of the biggest issues is no corn, no soy, and no wheat for dogs, and replacing that with much more balanced nutrition. But I was really shocked at some of the ratings organizations out there that take a look at dog food and then rate them as to their ability to drive nutrition. Most of the heavily promoted dog foods out there rate very poorly when it comes to delivering regular nutrition. And those heavily promoted dog food brands, and if I started naming them, you'd go, really? Those heavily promoted dog food brands tend to use corn, wheat, and soy as their main products, or main ingredients. And so, at any rate, this all started with this conversation with some industry insiders that I had last week, talking about this Hy-Vee dog food recall, and then us doing some background research into other well-advertised dog food products and seeing how they are rated and ranked according to a number of agencies out there, and you'd be surprised. If you're interested at all, what you might want to do at some point is go ahead and Google search dog food ratings and see where your pet's foods rank in the area of nutrition and vitamins. Let's talk about the end of the big box store. When Best Buy announced in 2012 that they were closing or downsizing some 200 stores, you would have thought people would have taken notice. I know some of the local Best Buys went from this big to this big in short order. This year, guess what? Radio Shack has announced that they're going to be closing 500 stores, and Kmart has said that they're going to close 200 box stores. What does all this mean? Well, one of the things I think that people should concern themselves with is, remember when I was talking about being all things to all people? There's a consumer trend that's moving away from that and moving towards more specialized whatever. Now, I know that flies in the face when you have, again, we'll talk on the positive side with our friends at Hy-Vee. They're opening up these mega stores, 90,000 square feet of mega stores in this Des Moines metro and in other communities. And it's a wise move because what they're doing is they're attracting a whole new brand of people to their stores. It was either almost like being in education, a publisher perish. They knew that they had to change in order to attract a larger group of people. So why was that? Well, you've got things like Whole Foods, that's World Market, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, small stores that have been able to attract a loyal following with limited brands, but very wholesome type brands. And so chain stores in the grocery side have had to come to grips with that. But what are we talking about? What does this mean to you? And I think it's one word. It's opportunity. And the opportunity, let me try to share with you what's happened in agriculture. Iowa is an agricultural state, and we're heavily involved in the world of agriculture with our business, Inside Advertising, as we represent some agricultural interests out there in their advertising and marketing programs. So we know that traditional agriculture is the bulwark, it is the employer, it is an important part of why Iowa, for example, didn't have a negative bounce when the recession. There's still a lot of people out of work, don't get me wrong, but Iowa's unemployment rate is hovering about 4.9%, unlike some places that were more engaged in manufacturing. Even still, manufacturing is an important thing in Iowa because of agricultural manufacturing. But what we've seen, even though traditional agriculture, big ag, if you will, is the major player, what has happened is that there's a bunch of folks in agriculture that have tapped into this whole buy fresh, buy local thing. They have gone from big box, if you will, big ag, to this very small, sustainable product that they're selling to, sustainable products that they're selling to restaurants and individuals. Buy fresh, buy local. It has a whole cadre of people that are following this organic and sustainable agricultural model. We think that same opportunity lends itself for you, no matter what business you are in, if you're up against the big box stores. Now, you don't have the marketing dollars that the big box stores have, but that opportunity with these folks shuttering more and more stores, and I remember, believe me, I remember when a Walmart came to a town of, let me think, it was 14,000 people. The downtown stores shuttered almost immediately in the next year and a half because they couldn't compete with price. But that's changing now as more and more people are saying, hey, look, I'd rather do something different. I'd rather do something that's much more personal. Price doesn't always win. So I think that it's a sign of the times, and I think one of those predictions that we're pretty safe in. If big box stores are constricting, that offers you more opportunity in whatever business that you're in. Speaking about predictions, let's see. Sorry. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate that. If you want to get a hold of us, you've got any questions and or comments, feel free to do that. It's Insight ADV. You see it on the screen? It says Insight ADV. All right, let's talk about retail predictions. Now, this is kind of fun. And I'm going to have to read some of this because I really, frankly, don't remember all the things that I wrote almost 2.5 years ago. It was December of 2010. And one of the things that we do in our business is we sit back and we look and we say, okay, consumers, what is it that you're doing that we can kind of take to our clients and say, okay, these are some things that we think you, client, ought to be paying attention to. And so we came up with several predictions in December of 2010. And I want to read these to you, and I'll let you go ahead and score how it is that you thought we did. Ready? I can't believe it. One of the things that I said in 2010 was that Shop Local was going to be a big consumer push in 2011 and beyond. This is what I wrote. This is a consumer trend created by the recession and fueled by smart retailers who once found themselves being swallowed by big box. For years, there's been duplicity in the local Chamber of Commerce. Buy local also meant buying at chain stores that happen to be in the city limits. This new buy local trend is about helping your local merchant, your neighbor, and making sure most of the cash stays in town. Events like farmers markets and small mom and pop stores, we said at the time in 2010, are going to continue to grow and prosper because they're going to be able to transcend the media to say, look, when you do business with me, those dollars stay here. And interestingly enough, I think that most chambers of commerces across the country are starting to understand that, although many are still beholden to big box. They come to the realization that their real service area is in these small local businesses, and they push that message about the money staying local. So we said back in 2010, shop local was going to be a big thing, and I think we have done check. We see all kinds of examples of that. Small stores opening up, boutique stores opening up, grocery stores that are honing in on specific demographics. We're seeing just a bunch of those things, at least here in our part of the country. Prediction number 2 in 2010, creating relationships first. This is what I wrote. The growth of social media gives smart retail owners two-way communication that builds relationships with people who have never set foot in their shop. Think about that for just a second. By using Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, a business blog, retailers have the opportunity to not only broadcast a message, but also listen to what consumers want. I said the trick, though, is using it wisely. Simply starting a blog, joining a Twitter, or pushing people to your Facebook page is not going to work. You need a plan. But for sure, this media is word of mouth on steroids. 2010. I don't think it's diminished. As a matter of fact, the Grammy Awards and the Oscar Awards had record numbers of people tweeting, live tweeting, while those shows were going on, communicating with each other. We talk about that quite a bit. Third prediction was about mobile technology. And this is, remember when folks clipped coupons? 2010. Now consumers get promotions, coupons, and messages on their smartphones, often when walking into their favorite stores. This year, products and services will find the consumer first. And it's come to pass. And not only has that come to pass, but mobile technology for your website has also come to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, look, if you are not utilizing a mobile technology for your web, you're missing the boat, because more and more people are accessing websites, surfing the web, utilizing their mobile devices, whether it's tablets, iPhones, or Androids. And so if you're not mobile with your technology, you're not going to win. People will pass by. 93% of people who have a bad digital experience on your website will never come back. How do we know that? We just know these things, all right? So I think mobile technology is probably a pretty good predictor. Hyperlocal media. This is interesting. This is what I wrote in 2010. As traditional advertising, radio, television, and newspapers continue to deliver their product in your ad to fewer and fewer people while raising their advertising rates, retail will seek out new hyperlocal outlets in niche markets. Creating hyperlocal news platforms on the internet, beating the pants off traditional media for speed and interesting content will lead the way. And advertisers are following. It's a new hyperlocal world, something as huge as the web. It's a great concept moving forward. And I think that has proven itself as well. Hyperlocal news programming, hyperlocal programming of any kind. I mean, I know a guy that, listen to this. This is great. My friend Peter Tarpe broadcasts the Des Moines Dowling football games on the web, live streams those on the web. He has a 4-camera crew, I think 4 or 5 staffers. They've got an amazing switch. They broadcast this all over. They'll have 6, 7, 8, 10,000 people watching a football game of Dowling Catholic High School all over the nation. And it's sold out. Yep. Prediction number, where am I at? 1, 2, 3, 4. Prediction number 5. Get online yesterday. Here's what I wrote in 2010. As much as folks buy local, they also buy global. If the product or service is interesting, engaging, and fun, once upon a time, retail sold to folks in town, then it was regional. Now retail, even small, can be global. But there's a trick. If your website looks like it was built in 1999, most shoppers will yell pass and never come back. Get somebody to look at your site now and get it right. If you're not selling online, get there now. The proliferation of online sales has only grown since 2010, and there is no end in sight. Even if regulators find a way to tax it, it's still awfully convenient, and people will pay the freight. If you're not selling your product or service online, you're missing the boat. It can be done much more easily today than what it ever has been able to be done before. We would encourage you to take a look at that. And then the final prediction was this. I kind of like this one. I like all of them, as a matter of fact, because I think I hit them all. Dwolla. That was a prediction in 2010. Imagine spending 25 cents per internet transaction rather than, say, 3 or 4%. If you take credit cards in your business, you know how those costs can add up. As a retailer, why give Citibank or any of those folks more of your money? I don't understand. Unless you're just masochistic and you say, here, take 3 to 4% of my transaction fee. Now you have a choice. Homegrown in Des Moines, Iowa, and now national, we predict it's going to serve businesses thousands and thousands of dollars annually because of their low transaction fee. It doesn't matter. If it's a transaction for $10,000, guess what? You as a retailer pay 25 cents. There's some angles that have to be worked out with this and some things that you have to do to sign up and get involved. But we said in 2010 it was going to take off and take off well. People were going to start to see the value in saving money with Dwolla, and it has, ladies and gentlemen, happened. Just last month, the state of Iowa announced that you could pay your taxes using Dwolla. Guess what that's going to save the state government? Predictions from 2010. You know, sometimes you just got to blow your own horn. You say, hey, you know what? Maybe we did okay. When we come back, it is the worst ad of the week, ladies and gentlemen. One other program note. We were going to be talking about, what was it? Dish Des Moines? Dish Crawl. Dish Crawl, thank you. And Ryan, our ever faithful producer, says, Dish Crawl, Michael, Dish Crawl. We're going to have some folks on from Dish Crawl. This is a great thing that started out there in California, like everything cool does, right? And it's spread across the country. And it's something where people get together, restaurants get together, and they sell tickets, and 4 or 5 restaurants do this thing, and then it's kind of like, you know, like the bar crawl, like the pub crawl, like the farm crawl. You just go sampling place after place after place. Well, our guests today were going to be talking about that, but they had some negative reaction to some things last week, and so at the last minute they pulled out, so you get to look at me hammering home all of these factoids to you for the full hour, and I apologize for that if you're already asleep. But that's what happened to our guests today. We're going to try to, but our schedule's booked up pretty much. We're going to try to see if we couldn't get them in for a brief conversation about Dish Crawl, if indeed it does happen. I think it's scheduled for the 17th of March, so it's getting nigh on to time, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, I want to give you something we haven't done in a long time. It's called the worst ad of the week. And I think when I did a little background on this, it was pretty shocking what this is, especially when it comes to who the spokesperson is and who he's pitching for. Yikes. Worst ad of the week when we come back. This is Insight on Business. My name is Michael Libby, and we are powered by Webcast One Live.